Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown shut up the haters in a 27-13 controlling win for the Eagles as they go to 12-2, Steelers fall to 10-4. I'm Coy Camiscioli along with Eli Namey today from Philly Sports Talk, and we have a good and entertaining and fun episode today as the Eagles get a much-needed controlling win over the Steelers. How you doing, Eli?
Doing great. Happy to see a big win.
Yeah, this was a good one. Much needed after last week with the struggles against the Carolina Panthers, and we were one Xavier Legette dropped pass away from losing that game, and it was a disaster. The passing game got called out, as we all know, and let's get right into it because this was a very entertaining game. The energy was there. Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown. Jalen Hurts had 25 of 32 completions, 290 yards, two touchdowns, 45 rushing yards, one rushing touchdown. It's his most rush or passing yards since like week 3, I believe. And AJ Brown, 8 receptions, 110 yards, a touchdown. He got 11 targets. It was awesome to see.
For sure. And also Devontae Smith with 109 yards. I think other than the one fumble Hurts had, I mean it's a pretty perfect game. Like I really didn't see anything I didn't like.
Yeah, like we just controlled the passing game early on, especially like even that first drive where it kind of stalled out in the last few plays. You kind of had a feeling that the connection was kind of on today. And yeah, as you said with Devontae Smith too, he got involved. A touchdown, 109 yards, 11 receptions. He also had 12 targets. The passing game, it just looked really good. Jalen Hurts didn't look hesitant. There was a period of time in that third quarter early on where the passing game kind of like was iffy, but then we just completely dominated time of possession, and we're gonna get into all of that. So again, we'll get the Hurts and Brown drama out of the way because after that first touchdown, they had a really cool and funny dance going on as well, and you could just tell that all that bull crap, it's gone, it's out the window. It was just very much needed for the Eagles, and the Super Bowl hopes are back on after a terrible win against the Panthers a week ago. All the analysts and all those idiots and even some of the Eagles fans were like, "It's over. It's all over. We can't do anything after the Panthers game. This offense is just going to stall out like they did last year." All this bull crap, and I had to say I'm not shoving it into people's faces because a lot of people had the same opinion I did. It's not all negative, but we knew Jalen Hurts could do this. If you watched Jalen Hurts the last few years, we all knew that he could do this. It's just we didn't have to. We were on a 9-game win streak. We were controlling the ball running wise, and he just wasn't putting the ball in harm's way. I said this last week too. If you listen to that episode, I just got back from college last week, and I left on August 22nd to go to school. From the time that I went to my college and came back home, Jalen Hurts only had one interception. That's insane.
It's pretty
That's one
crazy.
interception in like 3 to 4 months, and it's not like a massive compliment towards him and his gameplay. It's more of like he's just not putting the ball in harm's way because he didn't have to. So that was the big thing that I wanted people to understand. But they looked good. Let's talk about Saquon for a second. 19 carries, 65 yards. Again, 19 carries, it's a decent amount, but he was actually held out for a lot of time in this game. He was kind of suffering a little bit from an injury, nothing serious though. He now has 1,688 yards on the year. He needs to get to 2,105, so that's 418 yards to break the record. And Eli, quick math here, just something funny. In 3 games, how much do you think he has to average to break the record? Let's take a
Uh,
guess.
140.
Woo! Pretty good. Pretty
What
close.
is it?
139.33
All right.
yards.
It's pretty
That's a
good.
mathematician right there, people.
Yes,
He
sir.
needs that. He needs that per game in order to break the record. And this is another thing a lot of people don't understand is that when we're going to pass the ball like this, Saquon's probably not going to break the record. The reason why he's doing so well, and he's still going to do so well even when we throw the ball like this, is because we're just dominating running wise, and there was really no need again to put the ball in harm's way. So, Eli, do you think he'll get the record these last 3 weeks?
I think it depends on the first quarter. Like we actually got a first quarter touchdown this game for once. Um, I think if we get a big lead early in the game, like a two touchdown lead, and we just start feeding it to him, I think then he could. But if the games are close early, we're so dominant with passing, and now Smitty's back. He looked great. I think it's tough to not pass as much as they do just because of how good they look. So I think it really depends.
Yeah, it's a very interesting next 3 weeks. We have 3 divisional games. Usually those are very difficult, and I think the Commanders game will be difficult on the road.
for
But
sure.
The Giants and Cowboys, that's not going to be difficult. Like that,
No,
the Cowboys could be maybe a little closer at times, but I think we'll
it's
control
not
that
gonna be
game
close.
easily. I think we'll dominate them. Giants game shouldn't be close at all. But then we also have to factor in injuries and making sure people stay healthy. So like, we might not feed Saquon 20 carries like the last 2 weeks of the season to the Cowboys and Giants, even if we're up by 10 or so points. We might feed Kenneth Gainwell a little bit more.
Yeah,
Which,
he had a
if
great
we had
game.
to, he
I was
did.
gonna say he had a
Kenneth
great
Gainwell.
game.
Kenneth Gainwell did very well. He only 20 rushing yards, but he had a couple big receptions to get to 40 yards. Had a very nice spin move. Had a couple big plays that really put us in a good spot. So I could see us feeding him a little bit. We need to stay healthy. That's the first goal. I don't want Saquon to break the record and then get hurt. I really want him to break the record and possibly get the MVP, even though I think the league will give it to Josh Allen at this point. Which I'm not saying isn't undeserved or not deserving, but I think it should be Saquon if he gets that rushing record. It's going to be close though. He needs to break one like in two of the last three games. I'm talking like a 50 plus yard touchdown to break the record. But who knows? As you said, props Kenneth Gainwell. We'll see how much a workload he gets coming up in these last three games, depending on what the score is with the Commanders. It could be a decent game. But also another player that really played well that didn't get a lot of love, Nolan Smith. He played really well. He had a sack and two tackles for loss. He also almost made an insane play. He hurdled an offensive lineman and almost got to the sack for a sack, but Russell Wilson rolled out left or rolled out right and was able to escape. But he's taken advantage of Brandon Graham being out, and that's also good to see because he was a first round pick that kind of underperformed a little bit and had a little not as much playing time as I think guys need to develop, but now he's getting that time and he's kind of showing out.
For sure. And what I love to see about the team in general is if you look at every part of the field, we just get down and ready. Like we're so dominant, I feel like, and we try so hard everywhere. Our receivers, our QB, our running back, our lines on both sides, our defense. We just look so ready and so versatile towards any type of play, really. Any whether it's running or passing or whatever it is, we just look so good and so on top of everything, and that's what I think is working out so well. Oh, sorry, that's why I think everything's working out so well for us.
Yeah, the first quarter of the game was a little nerve wracking because the defense was so good. They were so good throughout this game, and I have some stats for that later on. But the offense had like we had a shaky, not a shaky first. The first drive was good. We kind of stalled out for forced a field goal, which was nice. But then we had a three, or we didn't have a three and out. They had a three and out. But then we fumbled the football, which is a nice play by the Steelers. And then we got it back off a punt return, but Cooper DeJean fumbled, and then
Yeah,
it's kind of like this is getting a little nerve wracking. We can't let these guys stay in this. But then we had an immaculate offensive drive. AJ got hot and got a touchdown, and we outgained the Steelers for 148 yards on offense to just two for the Steelers, even with our two turnovers in that first quarter. So it was a little nerve wracking in the first quarter because the defense was playing so well. The energy was there, and just the offense, like not really the offense because it was a punt return fumble, and we had that first quarter touchdown too. But it was a little nerve wracking. How did you feel that through that first quarter?
yeah. I mean, I think other than the fumbles, I didn't see too much I didn't like. I think those aren't big concerns either. I don't think we're going to see much of that anymore. Hopefully, I'm not trying to jinx it, but I don't think those are big issues in my eyes. I think we look great.
Yeah, I'm not really too concerned long term with the fumbles. Like, I mean, the Cooper DeJean one, it is what it is. It was a nice play. Same thing on the Jalen Hurts one. Not concerned. It was more of a concern in that first quarter that we were kind of setting the tone to have a bad game moving forward, but we did not. We took care of business later on. Second quarter, Saquon got hurt on one of those goal line plays, and that's what kind of held him out for a little while. But we hit Devontae Smith for a touchdown. Steelers put together a good offensive drive. Pat Fryermuth had that touchdown, which was close to an interception, and it was very close. Pat Fryermuth did come away with the ball though. We had a couple of struggles later on offense in that quarter, but defensively, Nolan Smith had a big sack, forced Chris Boswell field goal. Went at halftime up 17-13. And late in this game, I was starting to get nervous because there are a lot of hip drop tackles as well, which is supposed to be a penalty in the NFL now. Apparently, it's not, no matter how blatant it is, and I'm okay with that. But these players need to get fined too. Like we had a few very bad hip drop tackles. I believe Devon or AJ Brown. It was AJ Brown who got rolled up on. That was very annoying. And then like even Mekhi Becton, it wasn't a hip drop tackle, but he got hurt for a second. That was a little nerve wracking because he's had such a good year so far. He's really just emerged. Even Landon Dickerson went into the tent for some time. Tyler Steen came in, so it was a very nerve wracking second half. I thought we were going to see somebody get hurt and have an issue for a while, but that was not the case.
For sure. I think, I mean, of course, that's hypothetical too, but I think injuries right now are our biggest threat. I think we look so good everywhere, and I think we look really like a team, like we're working together. Obviously, we saw the coaches arguing a little bit on the sidelines. I'm not too worried about that. I don't think that's an actual issue. I think the only thing that could really stop us now is injuries.
Yeah, I mean, and it's unfortunate for the Lions. Like I saw something today. They
Yeah,
have 22 players on injured
yeah,
reserve,
that's
and they
bad.
lost a they lost a few more this past week to season-ending injuries, including David Montgomery and a few of their defensive players. I mean, they are beat up defensively on all sides of the ball, really, but mainly defensively. And the Eagles, listen, it sucks. I do like that sucks. I wish all those guys were healthy, but this is where the Eagles need to capitalize
For
on
sure.
when these guys are hurt. So again, I agree. I think injuries are our biggest scare right now. One other thing that was kind of a scare going into this game that doesn't seem like it anymore. Jake Elliott looked good in this game. He booted a
You look
48
great.
yard field goal that was called back because of a penalty, but then he made a 41 yarder. He missed zero kicks. Hopefully, he's back and for good. So that is also good to see. And then let's get right into the end of the game too, because this was so impressive, and this is what we're gonna need to do down the line. The Eagles got the ball with 10 minutes and 29 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and we were at our own 3 yard line. And the Steelers did not see the ball again. We drove all the way downfield, and there was nothing that they could do about it, and they did not see the ball back. That is so unbelievably impressive, especially with dominating time of possession. If we can do that later in the year, again, like if we see the Lions in the playoffs or something like that, when their defense is that beat up, you have to keep those backups on the field for that long. That's what we're going to need to do down the stretch.
Yeah, and the Steelers have a elite defense, but we really just made them look very below average at best. It was great to see.
Yeah, for sure. Again, this is something that a lot of people need to remember how good the Steelers defense is, as you mentioned, and they couldn't do anything. And
Yeah.
offensively too, we held them to just 163 yards, which is their fewest in 14 years.
Wow.
That is an unbelievable stat. This Eagles defense is insane. A lot of people had questions going into this year. Vic Fangio, thank you so much for what you've done for this team because it truly is unbelievable. And I'm very, very happy with how this team is playing. Again, we got a big one coming up against the Commanders. We can clinch and win the division. I think we'll end up doing that. So, Eli, let's talk about some playoff scenarios. The Lions, they still hold the one seed even with the loss of the Bills. The tiebreaker right now is conference record, and they're 8-1 in the conference, while we're at 7-2. So that's why they're still above us, obviously, since we haven't played them this year. But it gets a little shaky down the stretch of the schedule for them, especially with all these guys out. They'll play the Bears and 49ers on the road. And the Bears, I thought the Bears were going to play a little scrappy because they have nothing to lose now. They suck. The
Yeah.
Lions should defeat the Bears, even though it is in Chicago. So you never know, but the Lions will take care of them. The 49ers, though, on the road, they looked good, but actually, no, they looked horrible against the
I
Rams.
don't
But the
like
week
them at all
before
this
that,
year.
they looked good. Yeah, no, I don't either, but they could definitely pull off that upset, especially at home for the Niners.
Yeah.
That would be nice. That would be the one time that I'm actually rooting for the Niners. They looked so off on Thursday Night Football against the Rams, but the week before that, they looked great at home. So who knows? Maybe they can have a good game against the Lions in 2 weeks, and then the Lions will play the Vikings at home, which will have serious division complications involved with that game. So they have three games. No, the Bears isn't a tough game, even though it is in Chicago. You never know, but no. 49ers and Vikings, though, that'll be tough. But the only issue with the Vikings game is if the Vikings win out, they will get the one seed, which is a very interesting thing to me. So we need them to lose a game and then maybe beat the Lions, or the Lions can lose once, like they can lose either the Bears or Niners game, and then the Vikings lose to the Lions in the final week, and we went out. We had the easiest schedule out of these remaining teams. We play the Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants. Again, Commanders should be a tough game, especially in Washington. But who knows? What do you think? You think we'll get the one seed?
Yeah, I do. I think the Lions are a better team than us when they're healthy, but obviously they're not. Now they have Montgomery out, which is honestly really big in my eyes. I think their running game is one of the reasons they're so strong. The Vikings, even if they win out and they do get the one seed, that would suck. But I'm not worried about them. I think the Eagles are a much better team than the Vikings, and I don't think the Vikings are a 12-2 team. I know they obviously earned it and they're 12-2, but I don't think that it should reflect their skill level as much as it does. But what do you think about that though?
Yeah, so I have a few things to talk about with what you just said. Um, I think the Eagles are a better team than the Lions now. I think I would have agreed
Yeah,
with even with no even if the Niners I feel like it's 2022 all over again. Even if the Lions were healthy, I actually think I'd still say that. But just from how the Eagles have been playing lately, that's how I feel.
yeah,
But the Vikings, no, I completely agree. I will say the Vikings though, they're starting to look a little bit better. They don't really have any signature wins. Like they
no,
blew out the Texans, but I've been saying for a while I don't think the Texans are that good.
I don't
They did
know.
beat the Packers. That's a signature win. They beat the Packers on the road. I'll give them that. They beat the Niners early in the year, but the Niners they are not good this year regardless. The Vikings were tough with the Lions in their first meeting this season. And again, they'll meet them later on. But the Vikings beat the Jaguars 12-7. They beat the Cardinals by one. They beat the Bears by three in overtime. They did just blow out the Bears, so actually it's a bad sample size because they have looked better recently, and they blew out the Falcons recently as well. But they do have again a much tougher end of season schedule than the Eagles. They play the Seahawks on the road, which the Seahawks haven't looked as good lately, but they're still a good team in Seattle. You never know because the Vikings are not that convincing to me. And then they had the Packers at home. I can't see them sweeping the Packers. I think the
I don't
Packers have
know.
also looked very good recently as well. Obviously, it's in Minnesota. And then they had the Lions on the road. So again, the Eagles are by far, the beneficiary of the end of season schedule compared to their foes, Lions and Vikings. Um, it's going to be tough to get the one seed, but I actually do think it's going to happen. And here's some interesting scenarios to talk about because the Eagles could end up getting the two seed, and let's say like the Lions or the Vikings get the one seed. One of those teams gets the one seed, and then the other one will get the five seed. That means, assuming the Eagles win their first round game, the Lions, uh, assuming the Eagles win their first round game, if another one of the divisional teams, like divisional winners in the NFC wins, like meaning if the Buccaneers win, I'm going to guess they're going to win their division, or if the Rams win round one as the four seed, that means that we'll play the Rams or the Buccaneers, and then the Vikings or Lions, whoever win the NFC or the NFC, if not the NFC, if the one seed, if they get that one seed, they'll have to play each other in the divisional round. So the Eagles could actually be the beneficiary of that too, if they had to play the Rams or even the Seahawks or somebody like that if they win their division or the Buccaneers. We've had our troubles with the Buccaneers in the past, but at this point, I think we'd roll them. So who knows? That's with one of those divisional teams winning in the first round. There's a chance all the other two divisional teams get upset by some better teams in the wild card scenario. But again,
Yeah,
if we're the one seed, that could also happen to us, where we could end up playing the Lions or Vikings in the first round, like that, depending on who wins that division. So I don't know. It's so up in the air how seeds 1 through 5 in the NFC are going to end up.
yeah. I definitely don't think if we get the first or second seed, I don't think it's going to decide anything for us. I think like usually you have one thing you really hope for, and for most people, I guess that would be the one seed. But like you said, that second seed could definitely be very beneficial to us. But I think either way, I think we're gonna do just fine.
Yeah, it's kind of like banking on like certain things to happen or looking at certain scenarios. I do want the one seed. Again, I
Yeah,
know the two seed could give us a good draw. The difference between the Lions, an injured Lions having to play at home against us compared to in the 30-degree link, there's a big difference there. I mean, flat out, and they would have a much tougher time. Not saying they win or they lose, but it would be a much tougher time in Philadelphia. And same thing with Minnesota. They are a dome team too, and I'm not saying they're bad outside the dome, but there's such a big difference from playing in 30-degree weather in Philly, which is one of the toughest places to play, as opposed to playing in their little turf dome. Um, yeah, I'm taking a knock at them. I hate both those teams. So yeah, it should be a dogfight. Commanders, Cowboys, then Giants. We'll take on the Commanders at 1 o'clock Sunday, and hopefully we can wrap up this division and just move forward, try and get the one seed.
Now, Corey, let me ask you this: where do you see AFC and NFC? Where do you see the playoff bracket looking like? Just a prediction.
Okay. I honestly have no idea how seeds 1 through 5 are going to shape up in the NFC. It's so up in the air, but I
Me
do
too.
think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC now. I think they're going to come out the NFC, and it's going to be a little exciting just thinking about it. As you can tell, I can't contain it. Because I really want this to be the year. I love this team so much. I drove home from my school the other day, 5 hour drive. I think I rewatched, not watching, but listening to the Eagles versus Patriots Super Bowl highlights, and then I rewatched the Brandon Graham strip sack like 10 times with the audio, and it just gives me chills every time. And I think I would bawl out tears if they were to win the Super Bowl. I need to see it. I need to see it again. So
If
I think they're
they,
gonna.
I just
Sorry, you
want to
go.
say, if they go to Virginia, the Super Bowl, and they win, you're driving up from Virginia. We're going to that parade together.
Oh, there's not a doubt in my mind that I will be there. I don't care what the scenario is, but I will be there if that happens. So I need to see it. I really do. As for the AFC is also weird right now. Like the Bills,
Yeah,
they look very good, and I think they're the favorite. I've been saying the Bills are going to come out the AFC, but
it's going
I
to be
could
the
still see.
Chiefs. I
I
think it's going
I
to be the
could
Chiefs.
I could still see the Chiefs knocking them out. Um, but the AFC is weird though because the Chiefs again they look very vulnerable. The Ravens are also obviously dangerous. They are very dangerous, but I can't see them winning 3 games in a row to get to the Super Bowl just with how inconsistent they've been. But they can beat the Chiefs or the Bills and knock them out, and that's what makes it so interesting because you could see an assortment of teams from the AFC come out of the AFC. You think about it, like again, the Chiefs they could beat the Bills, and then they could look so vulnerable in the AFC Championship to a team that knocked off the Ravens, and you could see the Texans, for sake, go into the Super Bowl. I don't even know. Again, I'm not a Texans guy. I'm just saying like bold predictions with how the AFC is shaped out. But right now, I would say Eagles Bills, and then it would be a fight from there. But I need to see it, Eli. I need to see it.
I think the Bills are the better team, but I think it's going to be the
No, no,
Chiefs.
no, 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 no,
I think
no,
it's going to be the
no,
Chiefs. Dude, it
no.
always just.
Are you talking? Are you talking about the Bills better team than the Eagles or the Chiefs?
Oh no, I'm saying like the
Okay,
first
all right,
seed,
good.
AFC first seed. I
Okay, I
think
thought
the
you were saying they're a
Bills.
better team than the Eagles.
No, no, we're the
All
best team
right.
in the league right now for sure.
Yeah.
Um, the Bills are the more deserving number one seed, but it's always the Chiefs. Every year I doubt them, and it's always them. Even if they don't deserve it, it's them every time.
Yeah, we just saw the annual Mahomes high ankle sprain that just
Yep.
always sets up the script. That
Yeah.
wussy. Um, but yeah, it should be a wild finish to the NFL season. That's going to wrap up this podcast. Of course, we'll have one out after the Commanders game. The Lions, they take on the Bears. Vikings take on the Seahawks. Let's go Bears and Seahawks, seriously. Everybody go follow the Philly Sports Talk Instagram page. That is philly.sports.talk underscore. Go follow the Twitter, Philly Talks underscore. And give a sub to the YouTube. Again, this podcast, I should have said this in the beginning. This podcast is on YouTube as well, so go give a listen on the YouTube. I think we're getting a little bit better at it, and we're going to try to implement some new things. But that's going to wrap this one up. Eli, anything else?
See you guys later. Thanks for listening.
Eagles knock out the Steelers pretty soundly. Let's go Birds. Take down the Commanders. Thank you guys.